Hello.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Sure can. Can you
Okay,
hear
sick.
me?
I my little camera stand just like fell over, so it's a little skewed, but I think it's okay.
Cool.
Hello.
Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Hi.
There we go.
Good to meet you. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sounds good.
Great. What's up?
Ready to rock.
Ready to rock. Okay, is it cool if we're recording?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sweet. Heaven, how are you doing?
I'm great. Just famously burning the candle from both ends, exhausted from my rich and full life. What a joy.
Yeah. What has that entailed like in the last week?
Big every week is big week, but I think I overestimate what can be done in a day every day. But making a music video for the song that's coming out on Wednesday, and prepping all kinds of grumpy stuff that's coming out, fun podcasts and interviews and writing and making content, and
Mm-hmm.
also just all of my million random side hustles.
Crucial.
Yeah, that's awesome. How do you keep track of all that stuff? Do you write it all down, or is it like electronic, or do you just hold it all in your head?
I use the calendar app on my phone.
Huge.
Yeah.
That really, once I got into that habit, that was like, I'm a grown up officially. And even just like scheduling, putting like social things on the calendar. I'm edging organization slowly.
Yeah, that's a big resolution for me, so I feel that. And Sarah, how are you doing? I know stuff is really crazy right now, and
It's
Oh,
crazy.
you're in LA.
Yes, I'm in LA. I'm lucky to be in a place that is safe, and like I've sort of been joking, like where I live, it's basically like the intersection of like 4 different highways. So this is like the first time in my life that I've been thrilled to sort of be surrounded by cement, and usually it's like the bane of my existence. And
Oh my god.
luckily that will protect like any sort of like house stuff going on, but just the air is super bad where I am because it all settles like kind of in central LA. But it's been weird. Like obviously I grew up here, so it's like it's quite devastating to just sort of see some of like the most beautiful parts of LA totally wrecked, and obviously my heart is going out to like friends who have lost their places or that can't get back in for like probably months at this point with smoke damage. But I'm really grateful to be safe and to be able to help out, like, in the ways that Maddie and I have sort of been trying to help as much as possible.
yeah.
But other
That's
than
really-
that,
yeah.
normal.
Other than that, that's really nice that y'all are working to help out, and I've seen you sharing information online that has just been interesting to see from afar. Appreciate you sharing that, and yeah, I'm really sorry to hear about what's going on. It's a real tragedy.
It's tough. It's really tough. I think this is the worst I've ever seen it. And I used to sort of like joke around about like when I was like in high school and middle school, we would get like fire days instead of snow days because of like air quality or like it being close enough to people's neighborhoods that like they had to be out of the area. But yeah, this is definitely a crazy vibe.
Yeah.
That being said, yeah, like I said, I'm happy to be that I'm safe and that Maddie's safe and my folks so far have been out of the way.
Yeah, hopefully we can share some like resources or try to link to them in like the show notes of this. But
that would be awesome.
But yeah. Well, Heaven, thank you so much for coming on the pod.
Yes, thanks for being here.
Yeah, I know you're so busy, and all the music you've been putting out lately is so exciting to hear for me. And I've known you for a couple years now. I think like 4 going on 5.
No, it's
years.
gotta be more than that.
How do y'all know each other?
It is longer than that, but like I feel like we were like pandemic pod buddies.
Cool.
Totally. Yeah.
And so I feel like I came to know, like, we spent a lot more time together during the pandemic, which was really nice. And you would host me and cook amazing food like dumplings and like let us jam at your house, which was such such a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Nice to bond.
No, Heaven is like a like low-key like a really good chef.
Oh my god.
It's true.
We'll have to share recipes too. I'm a notably horrible cook, but I love to pretend.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to cook for us sometime.
Yeah.
It's my deepest joy.
So we figured we'd like pick a focus track for today, and you chose Holding, which is a song off your latest EP, Wolf.
Yeah.
Yes. Came out in October, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, sick. So I have a question just off the bat, because I know you mentioned that this song has a, kind of a longer story behind it. So I just wanted to open it up and hear like how this song came about and what experiences led to your making it.
Yeah. This song, like many, like I chose Holding because it's like the writing process of it was pretty, like it's a good example of how most of my songs come about. I feel like writing songs to me is always like motivated by, I don't know, I often write them for somebody. It's like this gift, it's this expression of my heart and my feelings. It's a good way to get out what I'm feeling. Always having someone to write a song for really pushes me, and when I'm writing, I'm thinking about exactly what I want to communicate to that person and kind of nothing else. I don't really think about them as like I don't think about the song so much as like how the audience would hear it until I go to record it, I guess. But the writing is always a very personal. It's really rare that there's not a story that isn't exactly true to what I'm thinking, feeling, and like writing true to how I speak. And this song came out, like it came to be because I had a dear friend who had gotten news that their dad was sick, and it was just this really intense thing for them to process. And it's normally like we were seeing each other all the time and just like so bonded, but they were out of town in their hometown. And with this person, communicating with words was so rare. Like when there was something big, the way that we communicated was, often by like holding one another or just being there physically. So it was when they called to tell me, I'd never heard them cry before. I'd never seen them cry. It was so rare that we communicated big things with words, and I just didn't know what to do because I knew that I think like talking about these things in the open was something that was really hard for them, really uncomfortable. And so I just didn't, I was like, I know that there's not much I can say. And it was so hard to figure out how to communicate the care and comfort that I wanted to give to them. And so it was this really brief phone call while I was seeing them cry for the first time, and there wasn't much I could say. And I just wished more than anything that I could be there in person to hold them. And when they hung up, I wrote this song in like 15 minutes, and it just came out so fast. It was just like me trying to say like I'm here. And it's, yeah, I just didn't know what else to do, so that's often these songs are intended as a gift to someone I love. I'm always and like on a broader scope, like often I think like crush motivated songs, and always trying to like make a cutie smile with the song. So it's part of the riz, I guess. But this one's a sadder situation than that.
Yeah. Did you end up like sharing like a voice memo with them or something like shortly after as like a way of communicating with them?
I did.
Yeah.
I did send them that song, and I honestly, like, it didn't go great. Like, I think, yeah, this was so hard, and I, they're like totally entitled to their response. Like, I think they were just like, it was so soon, and so like their story, and like, here I am like kind of making art out of their pain. And despite the intention being like an act of love for me, it just didn't land the way I wanted to. They now really love the song, thank God. But it was, it just was like a tough situation. It was, it broke my heart that it was like so like the deepest form of myself that I could give to like show my care and love. But yeah, I don't know. I also like understand their response being like, this is just like, I can't deal with this.
Did you like hang up, write the song, and hit share right away, or did you wait until there was like production?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so just voice memo bearer.
Yeah,
Wow.
I didn't know what to say, and I thought maybe, yeah, just like a totally like bungled attempt at sharing some care, but it happens. We're still really close, and they understood too. It's just like, you know, it just made them uncomfortable, and that happens.
Totally.
Yeah, totally. And I'm glad that I think it's cool either way that you shared that, and like as a way of communicating. I mean, I really have been a fan of your songs for a while, and especially I feel like in the last like 2 to 3 years, you have grown so much and like
so
come
too.
into yourself, right? Yeah. And so I also just kind of
Yeah.
wanted to ask you about your experience like with that and how you're feeling about like how your art has changed since we were jamming in your house in Nashville.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I've gone through like a huge like self-discovery arc. It's kind of just been like my confidence arc, and that's really informed my art. You know, when the first album came out, Loser, I remember there's a picture of me like holding the vinyl that I think you took in my house, like one of our first proper hangs years ago. So yeah, that would have been like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Photo cred.
Totally remember this bad outfit I was wearing. Whatever. Yeah, that really like dates all of this for me. But
Pink
anyway,
hair, right? Like,
yeah, I had the split dye, so like one half of my head was red and pink, and the other was just blonde.
That was sick.
Yeah. But you know, the band is called Grumpy, and that first album was called Loser, and it was a joke. It is like tongue in cheek, but and this is like true of my writing too. Like, I think there was certainly a real part of me that felt that way about me. Like that when I was younger, I really did think that I was an angry person. And growing up, I guess like in this like transformative time for me, kind of post college, there were some like deep interpersonal things happening, big discoveries, and yeah, I think I had a ton of anger and I didn't know why, and I just kind of chalked it up to like I'm just an angry person. As I grew up, as I kept pushing and asking questions in my own life, I realized like there were things happening in my young relationship that made me angry, that were like totally disrespectful, and like I had reasons to feel as angry as I did. And I like finally around the pandemic time like discovered what they were, like found, you know, my ex-husband and I like found language to what was going on, like we realized what was happening, like, you know, I think, and I guess this is like pretty personal, but so my ex-husband Austin, the drummer of this band, and I, who are like best friends to this day, you know, we were just young. Like this was our first like deeply committed relationship. We were engaged at the time, and I think there was a lot of what we didn't realize was control that was framed as care, you know, framed as like, oh, I'm worried about you, but I really wanted him to like trust that I'm a capable person, and like this was just like stuff that we both had to learn, and we did learn together, and it really unlocked so much once we like understood what was happening in that dynamic. And so much of me just melted into like the sweet, happy person that I am today. And it's that belief that I was just you know, because it was like from both of our perspectives, he was trying to care for me and love me, and I was rejecting it. I felt angry at it. And so I was just like, well, what an asshole am I? But yeah, and you know, he's a deeply loving, sweet, good person, you know, who was not vicious to me ever. But we just didn't know. So anyway, that's kind of like the origin. I don't know that I've ever really shared that, but that's like the origin of the band name. And the album being called Loser was just like another part of how I was down on myself. And so this kind of in the pandemic and in this like divorce between Austin and I, like we, you know, through as hard as it was, like we were always very kind to each other. And I've been friends this whole time, and he's just absolute family to me. But after that, I moved to New York and I was on my own for the first time, really. You know, I had never lived alone and I really wanted to do that. I'm like really have been hustling to live here alone. And it's been huge for me. Like that time in the pandemic was just like really, I had a lot of time to think and to kind of try myself on. And I came out as non-binary. I like knew I was queer in some way and didn't know quite how like terminally gay I was, which is part of the big divorce question. And you know, Austin's very understanding about it. But he's a total ally, and thank God for Austin. No regrets about marrying him. You know, we had a really epic almost 9 years together.
Wow.
And has been nothing but good to me then and since. But yeah, so it was just like this huge coming into myself, understanding my gender, but also that kind of was just a doorway into I'm kind of getting to rewrite this. Like there aren't really other rules. I can kind of discover like what do I really want? It's just me that I'm worried about here. And yeah, I think once it was like all of my biggest fears at the time came true, and I survived and ended up happier than ever. So it just really has left me with this sense of like, okay, what do I really have to be afraid of? And I think I have a lot of privilege to feel that way, a lot of support in my life. But yeah, I feel pretty limitless, especially as far as my self-expression goes. I felt that the more I've expressed myself and received love, it's just really boosted my sense of self and just taught me that, okay, like I can just like be as I am and I can explore who I am and I can change my mind. And so, yeah, this huge confidence arc has changed from, you know, the grumpy loser I was when Allie and I met.
Yeah.
But I will always be Grumpy the band. I have such a fondness for my younger self, and starting the band came after like a long hiatus from music, after I like dramatically quit and was like, I don't have what it takes. And I like went and worked at a marketing agent for a year. I like truly announced that I was quitting music. But really that just relieved a lot of pressure for me, and out of that, Grumpy and that first album was born.
That's so cool.
Does that answer the question? I don't remember what the question was.
It's just sharing. I mean, I really appreciate you sharing that like very personal information, and it's so cool to hear the journey that you've been on, especially like in the last couple of years. And I was just going to ask, like, do you feel like New York in particular has like played a part in helping you kind of come into yourself?
Well, I think there's so many things that have drawn me to New York. Before I moved here, I'd been talking about wanting to live here for 10 years. And so like the second I was a free agent, I did that. So many things draw me to New York. Like the first thing is like food exploration. You know, you can really travel the world as far as cuisine goes. And that's been such a blast. Like my Google Maps list of spots to eat is coveted. It's one of my prized possessions. I think it's like 1,300 locations deep at this point. But that's from like 10 years of coming here as well. And also like a lot of research, like places I haven't been yet. But these are like my vetted list of 1,300 places you should eat in New York.
That's amazing.
So I loved the idea of trying food and trying it for, you know, an affordable price. I think New York is like one of the places in America where you can like get a snack for just a couple dollars, you know? I'm like, snack culture in New York is huge. I want to just try a little something. And I feel like exploring food in the other cities I've lived in has been like a more expensive, like huge meal type thing. That's just my 2 cents about that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I've always wanted to live in a city with public transportation. That's huge to me. I think New York gets like a rap for being like harsh or unwelcoming, but I really feel like it's the most collaborative community I've ever been a part of. And just like, I think the proximity to your like fellow mankind, you know, the proximity to people's pain and joy and like that being on foot, that riding public transportation puts you in, I think makes you a more compassionate person. You know, like people might mind their own business better, which I think is polite, you know, like I think it's kind, you know, like let someone have what they're feeling. I think New Yorkers are like incredibly community oriented, and I think it's because we're in such close quarters, we're confronted with each other all the time. I think it's our human instinct to help each other out. And then just in our closer bubble of musicians and friendship, you know, it is hard to be here sometimes. Like it's expensive. It's, you know, we are on foot, you know, but I think that because of that, it's like, it just feels like everyone has this instinct to collaborate and to help each other out. Like the way that this community of musicians in particular just like rides for one another and is like playing shows together, um, you know, collaborating with each other. I mean, like Precious Human and Sidney Gish and I are about to put out this song together, and it's such an honor to me. And it's also such a deeply like warm thing to do this with 2 of my favorite people in this community, and people who are like real centers of the community for me, just as far as like the way that they connect each other. So yeah, and then there's like the fashion. I really have long been interested in fashion just as a hobby, same with food. Like the culture of self-expression in New York is so, I think, free, and it's just kind of the way like people don't give a shit, you know? Like you can kind of be so dressed up and dress so crazy, and it's like no one cares, but it's also just like I get to witness this. It's a lot of inspiration. Like I've lived in other big cities and just not felt half as inspired as I do here, to like really push my own creativity in fashion. And so like it's just such a cool thing to witness, and I think it speaks to like my deeper desire to just be myself and express myself, and I have such freedom to do that here, and it feels more celebrated, or at least it does in my head. So that's why New York.
Hell yeah. Sorry to ask a question that was a little off topic, but I kind of had to because we were like, felt like we were floating around it, and you and I both moved to New York in a very similar period of time. I think within like the same year.
It was like really, truly like right at the same time.
Yeah.
Both from Nashville too, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I lived in Chicago for like less than a year.
Okay.
Barely.
Yeah, right. Not to name names, but
yeah.
but yeah, and so anyway, so I'd love to just like ask you, a little bit more about Wolf now, as like, you know, the recording that just came out. It has such a full and lush, and I would say like heavy sound to it. I'm like really distorted, and for me it's like super cathartic to hear like crash cymbals and like halftime and just like hear the band sounding like they're letting loose in between these verses from you, and you know, supporting your vocals. So what was that process like, going from, you know, the demo that you had made on your, you know, nylon string guitar and your vocals to like to this recording? Like, was it always in your head that way, or how did that come about?
Yeah, it was always in my head as a heavier song. It was a heavier thing to feel. I'm kind of always looking for the heaviness that we have in Holding. Like I'm looking for ways to write songs like that. Or I'm super inspired by like Slow Pulp, I think does this really well. this like deep feeling heaviness but like really strong story and like present vocals. Yeah, I mean, that's what we wanted from the beginning. Austin really crushed on drums. I mean, it was a great opportunity for him to let loose. Yeah, I mean, I think the song came out exactly how I wanted. The day that I wrote it, Austin was like, this is really good. And immediately after I sent it to my friend, we immediately went into our little office and tracked bass and made this demo, and he and I were just writing parts to it. And Austin always, I think, and with all of my band members, like I try to choose band members who I think are extremely talented and whose point of view I really admire. And also, they've just always been, I've ended up picking people who like love and understand me deeply. And so like that converse of things allows me to just like write a song, give it to them, and really I just want them to do whatever they hear and feel. They're like trusted artists and collaborators of mine, and they make it really easy in that way. I like to hear what comes up for them, and that helps inspire me to keep going on it. And yeah, like with my band being primarily my exes and Diego, yeah, 3 exes and my friend Diego. Yeah, I don't know. It's like people who, yeah, I think loving me and understanding me is an important part of it. Like the production wise, I think it just makes things very seamless. I think it's like less about them fucking with my music so much as them like fucking with me. And I think that there's such an intimacy within our band and such a closeness, and that just allows us to have a lot of ease and a ton of fun together.
Can you talk about your band dynamic? Like what, I think like it's not often that like in music more than other spaces, you see people being able to collaborate and communicate with people they used to be in romantic relationships with. And we kind of actually just had a similar conversation with an artist who had dated or been married to maybe also the person in their band.
It's
for
very
a long
Fleetwood
time.
Mac.
Yeah. So, I mean, but it's interesting to have now 3 people in your romantic past that are all A, willing to communicate and collaborate with you, and B, with each other. So is like, what is the sort of structure of language there?
It's like I like to call out that they're my exes because I think it's so funny. But really, it's just like the greater thing that it is indicative of is like, well, really, we're just like, we're family, So it's so hardly a thought, I think, on any of our minds that they choose to date me, and we all just get along so well. Like I know how to pick them, nice people only. And it's just so obvious to me that like if you spend so much time investing your love into someone, that when that relationship, like when the shape of that relationship changes, it's not like that love goes anywhere for me. It was like none of them have wronged me deeply or in unforgivable ways, like it's, if anything, that love is even stronger and more pure because it's, not really commitment based. It's just we're honoring the commitment of respect and friendship and care. So to me, it's like, it's so obvious to me that all of my most favorite people and closest people in my life are those 3 exes and my most recent ex, Carter, who has a really beautiful project called Kid Lake. And she's been producing a lot of stuff for me. And yeah, I guess I'm like obviously attracted to talent and like musicians. I wonder if I only date musicians. I guess so.
Well, it's really like, we talk a lot about like obviously production and songwriting, but also like sort of where its relationship to like people's queer journeys are. And I think it's more common in queer relationships to sort of be like exploring like what is romantic and what is friendship. And so often we're we're able to maintain friendships because of just like mutual respect, and like perhaps at some point, you know, things became romantic, but also it comes from like deep friendship and emotional understanding first, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly is my, like, I kind of perceive that it seems to be like a queer thing, like this closeness with exes and this understanding post-relationship. You know, I don't know, like, if that's true, but I think this, like, part of, like, being queer or trans, like, queer and trans, I don't know, I think there's, like, something, I think like, the parts of queerness that have been, like, oppressed in society, I think kind of results in, like, this instinct for community, this instinct for, yeah, I mean, community is the best word for it, I think. And for me, a big part of it is, like, if you can let go of the shame of rejection, which I think a lot of people struggle with when someone doesn't want you in the way you want them to, or in the same way that they always had. I think I have to imagine, like, shame of is a thing that keeps us from closeness with someone who does love and care about us, and that, like, fear to communicate when you're not as, like, when you don't feel as desired. But I don't know, I can't really speak to why somebody wouldn't be close with their exes, but to me that's an easy thing to it's become an easy thing to let go of, as I've just gotten so I've, like, kind of taken that risk, and it's paid off so well. Rich in love over here.
Yeah.
You've taken... Go ahead,
Oh,
Allie,
go ahead,
sorry.
Sarah.
Well, I was just going to say, I feel like I'd be desperate to be in the grumpy rehearsal room. It's like the most ascended minds.
Yeah, and then it's just like, well...
Everyone's like
I don't
levitating
know, we're
above
like
the ground.
still,
Like,
no, we're still just like
vibrating.
an idiot group of musicians. Like, it's all just pretty normal, you know? Like, it's fun to, like, talk about, and I love to think about, like, what it means to me, but yeah, I mean, we're all just like a group of close buddies, and we laugh a lot, we get really into music. Band practice is pretty easy. It's really fun. I think we all look forward to it.
That's sick.
Thank God.
And with this song Holding, like, did it come together over a period of a long time? Like, did you keep anything from the demo? Like, who would you say, like, produced it? I guess it sounds like the whole band, but I'm just curious, like, who played what, or how it all came together.
It's rare that I kind of look at it from this way, but this song was, like, all about the drums. Like, it was just, I think we recorded the drums, like, almost a year before the rest, like, re-recording the final take on everything else. I know you know Alberto Seawald very well.
Yeah.
Beloved
legendary
legend.
Yeah.
Worked
audio
on
engineer and producer and musician and friend to many, based out of Nashville, Tennessee.
Just beloved goat, Alberto Seawald. He, like, got us into this studio he was working at. It was, like, the nicest studio any of us had ever been in, and we, like, went in the middle of the night, and there was, like, this crazy storm, and it was just, like, perfect drama for us to record these huge drums onto the demo. And then kind of in between that and final tracking for the album, or what is now 2 EPs, there was, like, a ton of time, the kind of, like, breaking down of my, like, marriage with Austin, you know, a lot of stuff that kind of held our focus for a long time so that we couldn't really get to finishing this. But Austin and I, like, officially broke up and decided to get divorced 1 week before we tracked this whole album and, like, finished producing this. And so it was, like, a week later, all of us pile into our Chicago home. Like, we decided, like, we're all gonna sleep here. We're just gonna, like, do this nonstop. Our friend Austin Hans Seegers, lovingly known as Hans, produced both of these EPs, and I guess I haven't announced the second EP, but, like, okay, like,
we'll redact it.
There's another one. Obviously, there's more music coming, but Hans produced this, and anyway, it was like this, like, fishbowl of, it was less intense than you might think. It was intense, but I don't know. I think this is a group of people who's like, just, I don't know. Maybe that's obvious by just how much I'm willing to talk about here, but it's just, there's like a comfort around when you have so much like love and respect at the baseline of relationships, and we all did as a group. It was like, all right. And it added to the rawness of the recording. I think it was like this group of people who a lot of the songs were about and who like lived it, and it was pretty fresh on our minds. So the whole album was like a long time coming, but mainly it was like in these like 15 days right after Austin and I broke up. But yeah, I mean, we got through it amicably. We had a good time. It was honestly like a good thing to focus our energy on when we were just hit with like, oh my God, like what the hell is life gonna look like? How on earth will we untangle? How are we gonna tell our parents? Like, where will I go? You know? And so like we all lived together still with Lane, who's also in the band. She plays keyboards. Yeah, Austin and Lane are dating and live together, and I think they're perfect for each other. Like I really just hope that they never break up because I love being around them. I love being at their house. It's so funny how it all shakes out, but tons of love. The question was about the recording of Holding. I mean, yeah, I think it just so quickly goes into like what was going on with us, like relationally. Like it's hard for me to even think about like what we were doing musically because it was just, I kind of mark it by this timeline of the divorce. And yeah, I mean, nothing crazy to report about the recording of this song. I mean, other than what was going on.
Yeah,
Well, like the actual
one.
recording was just like cool, like everybody knows what's up. We'd been playing this song live for a long time, and so we were just ready to get as heavy as we could.
I think this is such like a unique circumstance to be recording in, and like so many bands that I work with are dealing, they bring in a bunch of songs that like at one point was like very emotionally close to them, and then like by the time they get to the studio, perhaps with a producer, it's a little removed from like the immediate emotion of it. And so like being in the studio is sort of like this negotiation of like, are we going to try and chase like performing that emotion? Are we going to like somehow replicate that feeling, or are we just going to treat it like a to-do list and like just get the job done, depending on like how close or far they're willing to get emotionally to their music again. And so I find that this is like such a unique place to record from, is like when all of you are like sort of currently living that emotion.
Yeah.
So have you recorded any new music since then, and how has that compared to your previous experience in the studio?
Yeah, I mean, we've recorded some things since we made a lot of demos, like since this EP that's out and the one that's coming. We're kind of like right now getting back into the beginning of the next big thing. I've written frankly, like the next 3 albums, and I'm like, okay, all right, enough writing. We need to lay this down. It's time, and we're stoked. And so really that starts with me just like guitar vocal demoing out just so that everyone can get to know the songs. We just started rehearsing some of them to incorporate live, and also that just, if we play it live for a long time before recording, we get to discover ideas over time. We haven't recorded really anything as like a group like this. I've done a lot of solo stuff as I do like kind of at this stage, and we'll get together, like if we're hanging out, we might just like bust open a demo and work on it. And there's so much cool stuff. Austin and Lane just like will lay down the coolest stuff, and that just kind of becomes the new direction of the song. And Diego is the newest member of the band, and I guess Anya's like second newest. Like really, we've been just focused on live shows, tour, stuff like that. So I'm excited for this group to like get into a concentrated recording setting again, and with Diego and Anya doing that for the first time, really, like in a like concentrated way. we've all got such a great like collaborative dynamic. Like I think it'll be just really fun. Again, I love to like cook for us and just pile into a cabin or whatever we are gonna do. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of stuff just kind of here in this room and like producing, bringing in friends like Anya, who's our bassist, and Carter, who I mentioned earlier, she produced the song that's coming out on Wednesday with Sidney, Gish, and Precious Human. It's called Lonesome Ride. So those two I think are just like total freaks production wise, and I've been excited to kind of have us all combine forces, but I've just been like, it's been a lot of like hanging out with Austin and Lane and they do something, hanging out with Anya and she does something, hanging out with Carter. Yeah, I think it's going to be really exciting. I have so much to record and determine like what's going to make the cut for this next big body of work. But yeah, I have a lot sitting in the pipeline, but the recording is like, that's the thing that needs more organization. It's like I can sit here and write all day.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing and for meeting up today to talk more about like your process and this song Holding, and also just your journey over the last like 5 years plus, like coming into yourself more and your art and how that like has influenced your art. I feel like even though I've known you a while and seen a lot of change and growth, I feel like this is just the beginning for Grumpy, and that seems pretty clear to me.
Yeah.
So
big things planned.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see where this all goes, and we'll definitely be, following you along this journey.
Very cool.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you
Nice
so
to meet
much
you,
for
Sarah.
being here. It was really good to meet you and chat with you and hear about your life and your music.
Yeah, I love talking about me. This is
Many songwriters will agree.
What could be more fun?
Potential merch idea is nice people only.
Oh my
shirts
god,
for Grumpy.
I would buy.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wanted to. I keep joking. I think I really would like to do this. That I'm gonna print shirts that, like, just for my 4 exes that are like, I dumped Grumpy and now I will serve a life sentence of commitment to the band, Grumpy, or like I dated Heaven and now I have to be in this band forever, something like that.
I love
this is
that.
merch that's about to come out on this tour first.
Oh, I love it.
Grumpy is my least favorite band.
Hell yeah.
Would you like to plug tour? Are those dates announced?
Yeah. So a bunch of fun stuff coming up. Full band show on this Thursday at Windjammer. I don't know when this episode's coming out, but
Hopefully tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thursday the 16th? Yes, at Windjammer. Oh, you know what? That one's sold out. But the next thing is 2 dates, full band with Great Grandpa, Philly and DC.
Oh, I love Great Grandpa.
Me too. Yeah. I wrote it down 7 years ago that I wanted to open for Great Grandpa.
That's what's up.
Manifesting.
Yeah. Manifesting. This is my shit.
It's just a matter of time.
Fuck yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And then, yeah, it's like those shows are the 29th and 30th. And then the 31st, I go out for a solo tour opening for Real Estate. That's like a month long. So Anya and I are going to hit the road, have a blast. I hope y'all come out.
Are you coming to LA?
Whoever's listening. No, we're like doing a funny scoop of like kind of Midwest. As the most west is Texas, and then like South East Coast.
Everywhere but LA.
Yeah, we'll get to it. I plan to be on tour as much of this year as possible.
Incredible.
Sick. Yeah, well, I'll definitely be at those shows, and can't wait to hear some of the new songs live too.
I'll be astral projecting to those shows.
And thank you,
and
thank you for your service.
Cool. Well, Heaven, thank you so much, and yeah, I'll see you soon, I'm sure.
Yes.
Thanks, Heaven.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye. Yay! Stopping.